Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm sorry that I wasn't here for your presentation. I had another issue I had to be at. But a couple of questions. First, on the issue of driving tests. One county councillor in particular in County Tipperary, Seamie Moore, made contact with me regarding driving tests, and he asked the question, and initially when I thought about it, I thought that's a bit odd, and when I thought a little bit more carefully about it, it made a little sense at least. And he wondered about driver testing taking place in local estates where driving schools are bringing people to the same areas to practice their three-point turns, to practice their reversing around corners, etc., etc. And he saw this as a safety issue within his community. And he wondered why in modern day, with technology being what it is, that we haven't gone to a stage where we can actually do driver testing in a virtual environment. I wonder, would you have anything to say on that?
Thanks very much, Senator, for the question. It's a very interesting question. So what I would say, first of all, is that practice of going to the testing route has been there since I took my own licence. And we are aware that in some instances it does cause some concerns to the residents. In relation to the next level of driving testing, myself and my team are always looking at new and innovative ways upon which tests can be delivered. But we are very much so hampered around what technology is available. But what I can share with you, as part of the road safety strategy, there is an additional tool that we are looking at. It's called hazard perception testing, where it would allow an individual during the learning process, the training process of becoming a driver, to actually have some level of a simulation through a screen. Delivering an actual driving test in a simulator, the reality is I'm not aware of it being done anywhere in the world, and I'd be very happy if the Senator was aware of some country or some jurisdiction that did have it. We'd be very interested in having a look into it, because again, it would help with local residents. It may have additional elements which are beneficial as part of that learning and developing process as a driver. But it's a very good question, but we're not aware of that being happening anywhere in any jurisdiction at the moment.
In fairness, I'm not aware of it myself, but the idea sounded highly innovative, and it struck me that you would be able to implement scenarios that one normally wouldn't see in a driving test. And perhaps as a 21st century country, somebody might come forward with a solution that you might be prepared to look at.
Well, it's interesting you referenced the hazards, because that is very much so what the hazard perception test is. It's around putting an individual who's in training into a scenario where they are observing a road in front of them and trying to ascertain what is a hazard, what is something that's okay. So we are actually looking at that at the moment, and as I mentioned, it is part of our road safety strategy. We firmly believe that this is something that we should be making available to the public, and we will seek maybe at some point in the future to integrate it into the testing curriculum as part of your learner to license journey.
Okay. Now, the other one, I'm told, Buncrana was probably one of the worst places in the country 12 months ago. Then it improved, was doing very well, and now it's beginning to slide down the scale again. Have you any idea what's going on there, or what's causing that problem? Nicholas Crossan asked me.
So are we referencing pass and fail or waiting times?
With respect to waiting time.
Waiting times, okay. So what I can say is the waiting times that we are currently experiencing nationally are 19 weeks. They are up since the last time we were here, but we have increased our number of permanent testers by 30%. We've brought an extra 30 people on board, and we see a need to go further than that. But what happens is, very much almost to Deputy Carey's point earlier, we sometimes move testers around, or what sometimes happens is people get sick. Within the service at the moment, we do have people who are on statutory leave requirements, whether it's maternity, long-term illness, and fortunately that is something that can impact the service, and we do try and compensate by moving people from other jurisdictions when that's feasible. But as I'm sure you can understand, because of the pressure the service is under at the moment, to move resource is a really, really big challenge for us.
Yeah, with respect to moving resources, particularly testers, have you got a family-friendly policy whereby you try and have testers as close to their home place as possible?
That's a really interesting question, because as part of our placement of our 30 permanent testers, we did seek to accommodate individuals based on their ability to get there in as short as possible time. And we, within the permanent sanction, that's what we sought to do. I am aware of one or two where they moved maybe to a jurisdiction, or they were offered a job in a jurisdiction which really wasn't suitable for them. But unfortunately, that's where the vacancy was. And that, unfortunately, was the offering that we had. But we are always very cognizant of that, ensuring that there is a proper work-life balance and that people aren't spending too long, particularly in a driving test world, driving to and from work.
And Senator, just to add to what Mr. Walsh has said, but your question about we do have a family-friendly policy, and but everyone's circumstances are different, and there are driver testers who are very willing to move to another centre based on customer needs.
I can imagine if I was a driver tester, I wouldn't want to be in Galway because I'd probably be testing my own, which wouldn't suit. But is there a list that I can put my name on to request a transfer to a particular part of the country?
Absolutely. And again, we would always engage with our staff. Yeah.
Yeah, the other question was brought to me by Councillor Richie Malloy down in Tipperary. He tells me that there's a long period of waiting and that the pass rate is very low. Is there a problem with Tipperary that you're aware of?
But the national pass rate for 2022 was at 48%. That is a little bit back from where it was in 2021, where it was at 50%. Individual pass rates on a county level, I don't have them to hand. I can certainly take it away and look into it. But what I can tell you is the integrity of the service and those who operate within it, they are held to an extraordinarily high standard. And I would never expect to see one tester failing more than others, because it's a very, very tight criteria that they're managed on, and they're continuously assessed on by the supervisors.
Senator, we can provide that information in regard to the particular test centres of interest to you. We can provide that information to the committee.
Okay. One of the things I will say about your organisation, I had a relation who had great difficulty with the test. Reasonably good driver, but every time she went for a test, and I have to say, the approach taken with people that are in a nervous state is fantastic, and the effort you go to put people at their minds at rest, I compliment you on that. So thank you. I want to turn to the NCT now, if I may. Months, and we're told. I had a person come to me the other day, which again is a bit unusual because I don't really deal with members of the public that much, but went looking for an NCT test. His NCT runs out the end of February, early March, I think, and he was offered an NCT test in late September. Now, what we're being told is the Gardaí will take a sympathetic view. The law is the law. You have to have a vehicle that has been tested and passed a test, and that's it. If a particular guard chooses to take a lenient approach or a sympathetic approach, that's very much down to him or her, as the case may be. I understand you're trying to recruit people. Where's that now?
Okay. We did actually cover some of that before you got here.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm happy to summarise. Just in conclusion to Senator Craughwell's point.
Thank you for the slap across the knuckles.
It's not a slap across the knuckles. I'm just saying it's actually in the opening statement, but it's also, we discussed it already.
No, that's fine.
So on that point, I'm delighted to say that we have pretty much the highest level of vehicle inspectors we've ever had within the NCTS, and we're testing the highest volumes of vehicles pretty much we've ever done within the NCTS. In terms of being offered an appointment in September, I'm not sure I would 100% agree with that phraseology. Certainly when you go on to the NCTS website, I would agree that typically there are appointments being available in that time frame. However, the website does guide the user to say if these appointments aren't suitable for you, you can add yourself to a waiting list. and the vast majority of customers get an appointment within 28 days. So our average lead time for January, which is the peak in terms of the vehicle volumes that are due, was 25.8 days. So if the person that was speaking to you needs an appointment, they can call our call centre and we'll add them to the list, or they can add themselves to the list through the website as well.
Okay.
Can I say to you just on this?
Finally.
We live in a technology world. It should be possible that I put in the date my NCT runs out. Rather than having to make a phone call, that it would immediately see I need to be prioritised, and it would tell me that I will be contacted if a vacancy arises, rather than having to go through the two-tier process.
Agreed.
Okay, so just in response to that, we do alert you in advance of your appointment, typically 28 days in advance, that you're now due. And on occasion in the past, we have issued what we call provisional bookings. So basically, we alert you and say, you're due on this date. We're giving you a specific appointment in your chosen test centre in advance of that date to give you a chance to be passed. Given I suppose the pressure that we've been under over the last couple of years in managing capacity and demand, that's a luxury service that we haven't been able to offer in recent times. But I am optimistic that we will return to it probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay. Thanks.